It's Sunday night, 8:43. You're on the couch with your banking app open and your HYSA balance glowing on the screen. $17,240. This month's interest, $70.83. You've made every single deposit for 14 months straight. 28 transfers, not one missed. And that's what came back, $70. Not because you weren't trying, not because you spent it on something stupid. You opened the app, you set up the transfer, you made every deposit. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. And right now, tonight, you're thinking about stopping. Because $70 a month for $17,000 locked away doesn't feel like a system that's working. It's not that the account is broken, it's that you are $8,160 away from the balance where it stops needing you to push and starts pushing itself. That number is $25,400. By the end of this, you'll know what changes at $25,400, what $105.83 a month in passive income actually means for your account, and what happens to $41,000 if you close the app tonight and stop. At a 5.0% annual rate, the current top-tier high-yield savings rate in the US, $17,000 generates $70.83. $25,400 at the same rate generates $105.83. The difference is $35 a month. That $35 is the entire gap between an account that feels pointless and one that covers a bill without you touching it. You've probably been told compound interest is magic. At $17,000, it doesn't feel like magic. It feels like $70. And that's exactly why that spreadsheet on your laptop doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It is going somewhere. You just haven't reached the number yet. There are 4 phases between where your savings account is right now and the point where it starts working harder than you do. Phase 1, the invisible zone. Phase 2, the patience trap. Phase 3, the crossover point. Phase 4, the compounding takeover. Most people never make it past phase 2, not because they run out of money, but because they run out of patience 8 months before everything changes. Phase 4 is the one where your account starts adding to itself faster than you add to it. We'll get there, but first, let me show you why phase 1 is specifically designed to make you quit before you reach it. Phase 1, the invisible zone. You've just opened the app. The interest credit for the month is there. You made 28 deposits to get to this balance, and the account gave you back $70. That's phase 1. That feeling, the one where you wonder if this is actually doing anything, that's not a sign it's not working. That's the name of the phase you're in. Feeling frustrated here is rational. The return is small. You're not misreading the math. You're just inside a phase that is designed to feel like it's failing right before it transforms. At 5%, $15,000 generates $62.50 a month. $17,000 generates $70.83. Your account earns $2.36 per day right now. At $25,400, it earns $3.53 per day. The difference is $1.17 per day. But that $1.17 is the entire distance between an account that feels pointless and one that covers a bill on its own. Saving in phase 1 is like pushing a car uphill alone. The car is moving, you can measure the inches, but it's your legs doing everything. The engine hasn't fired yet. The engine has always been there, you just haven't reached the crest where it turns on. And phase 1 is survivable. The problem is what happens in phase 2, because phase 2 is the rational response to phase 1 becomes the reason most people never see phase 3. Here's the part nobody talks about. You've just seen why Jordan's $70.83 isn't a sign of failure, it's phase 1, and why phase 2 is the phase that turns disciplined savers into people who quietly close the app and stop. But phase 3 is the one that costs the most to miss, because it's the phase where the math crosses a line it has never crossed before. And the data shows that most people who stop saving stop an average of $8,000 before they reach it. The number isn't $1 million. It isn't even $100,000. It's $25,400. And most people saving right now are closer to it than they think. Let me show you exactly what happens at phase 3. Because once you see the $105.83 number, you won't be able to look at your HYSA balance the same way again. Stop. Before I show you phase 3, I need you to understand one number: $8,160. That's Jordan's phase gap. That's the distance. And it might be yours too. Phase 2, the patience trap. You're at $20,000. You deposited $500 this month. The account credited $83. You look at those two numbers side by side: 500 in, 83 back. The account feels like a bad trade. You know the advice says keep going, but the math feels like it's working against you. It's not. You're in phase 2. Wanting to stop here makes complete sense. The return still doesn't feel proportionate to the sacrifice. That's not irrational. That feeling is the trap. Phase 2 is the phase designed to feel like the end, when it's actually the approach. Here's what most people completely miss. Between $18,000 and $22,000 at 5%, monthly interest gets added to your principal. The following month's interest is calculated on a slightly higher number. The acceleration is real, but it's invisible at this scale, about 30 to 50 cents more per month than the previous month. In absolute terms, almost nothing. In compounding terms, it is the early slope of the curve that becomes phase 4. Every month you stay in phase 2 without quitting brings the account 42 cents a day closer to phase 4 behavior. That sounds like nothing. Over 36 months, that momentum is worth $1,800 in accelerated phase 4 growth. The trap is quitting 42 cents a day before $3.53 a day begins. Phase 2 ends when you cross $22,000. But here's what nobody labels for you. There's a specific number between $22,000 and $25,400 where the math crosses a line it has never crossed before. Phase 3. And the cost of missing it isn't $8,000, it's $41,000. Phase 3, the crossover point. Your account made $95 last month. You almost didn't notice, but that was $4 more than the month before, and $4 more than the month before that. You're not at the threshold yet, but you're close enough that the math is starting to lean forward. The reason phase 3 is uncomfortable isn't that the news is bad. It's that the news is you were 8 months away and you didn't know it. If you stopped in phase 2, that wasn't failure. It was a missing number. Between $22,000 and $25,400 at 5%, monthly interest crosses the $90 to $105 range. At $25,400 exactly, $105.83 per month. And at that number, two things happen at the same time. First, monthly interest exceeds $100, a real usable figure. It covers a utility bill, a grocery run, a car payment. It is no longer a rounding error on your statement. It is income. Second, that interest is added to your principal, making next month's interest calculated on a higher base. The account crosses from invisible to structural. The interest is now generating income on its own terms. At $25,400, the account earns $3.53 every single day, including the days you don't open the app, including the days you forget about it, including weekends, every day. That's $1,288 per year, earned passively, requiring no additional deposits beyond reaching the threshold. Phase 3 is the threshold. Phase 4 is what the account does after you cross it. And this is the part nobody explains because you have to reach phase 3 to see it. Jordan hasn't seen it yet. Priya has. If the $105.83 number just changed how you see your HYSA balance, this channel breaks down exactly these kinds of thresholds every week. The numbers that change the math without anyone announcing them. Subscribe now. The next one covers the same threshold logic inside your 401k, and the number there will surprise you even more than this one did. Now, here's what Jordan's account looks like in phase 4, and what Priya's already looks like today.
You know what $25,400 produces at 5%. You've seen the threshold. You know phase 3 is the crossing. What I haven't shown you yet is what phase 4 costs the people who stop in phase 2, and that number is $41,000 over 10 years. We're going there now. Once you see this calculation, you cannot unsee it. Here's phase 4. Jordan is on that couch right now, $70.83 on the screen. 8 months from this. Priya crossed it 14 months ago. Here's what Priya's account looks like today. Phase 4, the compounding takeover. Priya's account made $127 last month. She deposited $500. The account contributed $127 without her doing anything differently than she was doing in phase 1. Same discipline, same biweekly transfer, same HYSA. The only thing that changed was the balance. The account is a co-contributor now. This isn't a different strategy. Priya didn't make a clever investment or switch platforms. She stayed in phase 1 and phase 2 long enough to reach phase 3. That's the whole thing. That's it. Above $25,400 at 5%, two forces operate at the same time. Monthly interest exceeds $105 and grows slightly each month as interest folds into principal. And the behavior of the account changes psychologically. Passive income that covers a real expense changes how you relate to the account. You stop checking it for reassurance and start watching it perform. In 12 months past the threshold with continued deposits, interest alone generates approximately $1,420, money requiring zero additional sacrifice beyond reaching $25,400. In 5 years, that compounding produces $8,400 beyond what your deposits alone would have generated. The account becomes a co-author of the balance, not just a recipient. And this might be the most important point in this entire video. Every day Jordan stays in phase 1 before crossing the threshold is 1 day fewer spent in phase 4. The cost of stopping at $17,240 tonight is $41,000 in forgone 10-year compound growth. That is $11.23 per day of not crossing. Phase 4 is when the engine fires. You've been pushing that car uphill for months, and then, without any announcement, the engine turns over. The car starts moving itself. Your legs are still there, but now they're guiding, not carrying. The hill is the same. The car is the same. The only thing that changed is the balance crossed $25,400. Now you know what the 4 phases look like. Here's the question. Jordan is at $17,240 right now. What actually has to happen, specifically to reach phase 4 in the next 8 months without losing the momentum that's already been built? 3 steps. The phase acceleration plan. Step 1. Calculate your phase gap. Open your HYSA app, look at your balance, subtract it from $25,400. That number is your phase gap, the specific dollar distance between where you are and where the account changes its own behavior. Jordan's phase gap, $25,400 minus $17,240 equals $8,160. At $250 biweekly, Jordan closes the gap in approximately 15 months with no other changes. One adjustment, step 2, cuts it to 11. Tonight, 90 seconds, 1 subtraction. Write the number down. Give it a month. That month is your phase 3 arrival date. The most common mistake is calculating the phase gap and doing nothing with it. Without a deadline, the phase gap is just information. With a deadline, it is a target. Write it down. I reach phase 3 by, and put the month and year. Step 2, the one-time phase deposit. Identify one non-recurring cash source, a tax refund, a work bonus, a side payment, a forgotten account, and direct it entirely towards closing the phase gap. Not a new habit, not a lifestyle change. One redirect. The average U.S. federal tax refund is $3,221. If Jordan applies that to the phase gap, the remaining gap drops to $4,939. At $542 per month, Jordan crosses the threshold in 9 months instead of 15. That 6-month acceleration is worth approximately $640 in additional phase 4 compounding by year 5 and $3,800 by year 10. Do not use consumer debt to close the gap. Average personal loan rates right now are 11.5%. A 5% HYSA return does not offset an 11.5% interest rate. The phase gap must be closed with cash, not borrowed momentum. Borrowed momentum runs backward. Here's what separates the people who reach phase 4 and the people who stop at phase 2. In 10 years, the difference between stopping at $17,240 and crossing $25,400 is $41,000. That's the number. That's what the floor protects. Step 3. The Phase 4 floor rule. The day you cross $25,400, set a floor. Do not let the balance drop below that number for any reason other than a documented financial emergency. The floor protects Phase 4 behavior. Every month the balance stays above $25,400, your interest income is $105.83 or higher. Every month it drops, you're back in Phase 3 or lower, and the compounding momentum resets.
A single $3,000 withdrawal that drops you to $22,400 reduces monthly interest from $105.83 to $93.33, a $12.50 per month reduction. Over 12 months, $150 in lost interest. Over 5 years, if not replenished, $1,100 in compounding loss beyond the withdrawal itself. Set the floor the day you cross $25,400. Label your account in the app Phase 4 Floor $25,400. That label is the rule. The most dangerous moment is immediately after crossing the threshold. It feels like permission, like you've arrived somewhere and can now relax the discipline. You can't. You've just turned the engine on. Don't turn it back off. You now know the 4 phases. You know the threshold is $25,400. You know Phase 4 produces $105.83 at current HYSA rates passively every day without additional sacrifice. Jordan's phase gap is $8,160. Yours is a different number. The math is identical. Most people saving right now will stop in Phase 1 or Phase 2 and never know they were 8 months from the number where everything changes. You now know what phase you're in, and you know exactly how many months are left. Tonight, open your HYSA, subtract your balance from $25,400, write down that number. Give it a month. That is your Phase 4 arrival date. You've just found the threshold that changes your savings. The next video shows what happens when you apply the same logic to your 401k. The threshold there is different, the mechanism is identical, and the cost of not knowing it is significantly larger. Watch it now. Your money unmasked.